Alright, so in this video, we're going to learn a little bit about prisoner's dilemma. Prisoner's dilemma is probably the most simplest version of game theory. And game theory is a mathematical tool for understanding how players make decisions and taking into account what they expect their rivals to do. We see this game theory happening with gas stations before the long weekends. Before the long weekends on Thursdays, gas prices go really high because the gas stations, they all cooperate and they work together to bring gas prices really high. And there's a little bit of mistrust where one gas station decides to bring prices lower to get lots of sales, then all of a sudden somebody else is gonna break the trust and break the promise, and all of a sudden by Sunday the prices are really low. So that's a more complicated version of game theory, but like I promised, the simplest version will be prisoner's dilemma. And prisoner's dilemma is where two players have to make a strategic choice where their results depend on the other player's choice. So in this case, we have two criminals, let's say Bonnie and Clyde, and they are put into separate rooms after they were caught for robbing a bank. Now, the police have no evidence that they robbed the bank, and as such the detective is trying to get these guys to rat out the other, so that he can get his promotion or whatever. But that's not the point. The point is trying to get them to confess. So what happens is the detective sets up the reward system in this way. So what happens is, if Clyde confesses, then Bonnie's best choice is to confess. Otherwise, he'll get 25 years if he denies. And if Clyde denies, then Bonnie's best choice is to confess, because then he'll get 5 years instead of 7, and vice versa. So it's set up in a way that the safest option is if you just confess. Now, the reason why we call this prisoner's dilemma is because if they had just both denied, then they would have got 7 years, rather than if they both confessed and got 10 years. And it actually challenges the smart choice theory, where you have to choose where marginal benefit is greater than marginal cost. Now, there are two smart choices now instead of one. The obvious smart choice is just to confess, because that's the safer one. And the not so obvious one is for both of them to deny. But the problem is, if one of them denies and the other confesses, then the one who denied is going to get 25 years. So one of them's thinking, okay, well, if I deny and my partner confesses, and he's going to get out 5 years, and I'm going to get 25. And what if he's expecting me to deny, and he's going to confess? So there's now this mistrust. So both players are unlikely to deny, and more likely to just confess. And the tendency for them both to confess is called Nash equilibrium, and it was named after John Nash. I don't even know if it was John Nash, but something like that. And Nash equilibrium is when each player makes his own best choice given the choice of the other player. So Nash equilibrium is basically, in other words, the best choice for both of them to confess. So this strategic interaction, it complicates the decisions because now there's two choices. One based on trust and one based on non-trust. Now if you trust your partner, then by all means you should deny. But if you don't trust your partner, then you have to confess. What if you think you can trust, but you really can't?